I journeyed back to the land where I grew up, home, Trinidad and Tobago, to find out more about the history of the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. My quest for knowledge on this matter led me to an audience with the musician and music band leader, the legendary Dr. Roy Keep. I held a conversation with a veteran journalist, Errol Pilgrim. I had dialogue with a cultural activist and multimedia artist, Rubadiri Victor. They were kind enough to accommodate me.
Through the years, Carnival has been spread all over the globe. In Sweden and Finland and Denmark and Holland and these places, there are Trinidad types of Carnival.
There are 300 Trinidad and Tobago style carnivals in France. Two largest street festivals in the Western world are Trinidad style carnivals, which at their height 4 million people on the streets, London and Brussels. They're worth $15 billion annually. So about tens of millions of people participate in it actively every single year. It's massive economies that are inside fortress economies. Metropolitan cities where you can't get in to sell a pen, a ballpoint pen. We have billion-dollar economies, Caribbean economies, Trinidad and Tobago economies set up inside of these spaces. It's amazing phenomena. Where's it come from and how is this been able to happen? Especially this is all happening without private and public sector intervention, NGOs, and there's no secret societies and stuff moving about creating this. This is the energy of Trinidad and Tobagoans at work in the world, almost successful entrepreneurial industrial enterprise, and most important social revolution.
The French colonists had come to Trinidad with all their culture and so on, and part of that culture was the holding of these lavish costume balls. They went overboard with the costumery, and the lavishness of it impressed itself upon the minds of those whom they had enslaved. The slaves were not allowed to participate in this fine part of their culture. So what they did, they mimicked their masters and mistresses, dressed up themselves. Of course, most of them, or all of them, were barefooted, and they themselves made their own costumes and started their own thing, really.
It was the West Africans who came here. It was the Nigerian, Ghanaian, the Gold Coast, the seat of Festival, Africa. That's who came here. It was Bengal and Bihar from India who came here. Seat of Festival, India again. It was France, and this was right after Louis XV. This is Flam time. This is them. It's them that we get,
But it was not until 1833, when emancipation came to Trinidad, that the carnival really exploded into what was then called canboulay, which is a patois sort of definition of canboulay, or the burning of canes, which was part of the whole process of refining the canes and processing them and so on. And canboulay was really the start of the carnival as we know it now. In fact, so much so that it is reenacted each year before the parade on Carnival Monday and Tuesday.
There is two currents: the canboulay tradition, the African canboulay tradition, what Machel calls the Mas, M-A-S, and then the Carnival Mardi Gras tradition of the Europeans. And at different times, different ones have been ascendancy, and right now the Mardi Gras is definitely in ascendancy. And that's because of choices made by elites, post-independence elites of Trinidad. But this is a battle that has been ongoing since the 1800s, since emancipation, where all of a sudden the Europeans who were celebrating their Mardi Gras had to contend on Emancipation Day with the sudden expression of freedom that the Africans chose was the carnival. And all of a sudden there were literally dozens of sacred masquerade and satirical masquerade and all kinds of things taken to the streets, which for people who would have banned the drama and have banned traditions and done all that kind of stuff and thought that they had these people on the raps, cultural raps, to see all this thing just take to the streets and all this other kinds of subversive energy. There's a story that one of the first things that they did is that they went up to the savannah and they ran military drills. The Africans, a whole mock parade with monarchs and BAM and that kind of stuff, which must have frightened Europeans no end. It's like, where did this come from? It's like, how did they organize? How were they able to?
Serious moment, a very tragic moment too. The joke went that you had a situation where Despers is playing Noah's Ark with a lot of shepherds with long staffs and so on. And these shepherds were able to beat the modern day soldiers. But Noah's Ark was sort of, well, it was more than just an ark because they had hundreds of cutlasses secreted in the ark for the purpose of any fight that they may get into. I remember there was a very innocent and very well-decorated band brought on by one of the best wire benders in Trinidad at the time, Cito Velasquez from Barataria. He was playing Fruits and Flowers, and it was a sort of sailor band with fancy sailors with a lot of the headgear were well decorated pieces representing birds and flowers and other animals and so on. And Cito Velasquez's band Fruits and Flowers had found themselves at the top of Charlotte Street, right opposite Memorial Park, right between Despers and Sao All-Stars. And the fruits and the flowers were smashed. The birds were smashed. And Cito's band was almost totally obliterated. But like I said, that was the last of the era of steel band, the violent rivalry by steel band. And what happened is that Eric Williams was successful in getting the bands to come together to talk about how they could cooperate with a view to developing the steel band under the aegis of the Steel Bands Association. And in 1963, what used to be some loose competitions that were held in one place or the other became formal and was called Panorama. So you had the Steel Band Panorama started in 1963, and coincidentally, this year, 2013, was the 50th anniversary of the Panorama.
Panorama, all these different tribes and communities come pushing their pans down from their communities, surrounding the savannah. They meet there in concourse, they push it onto the track. The track is a place where all classes meet, merge, whatever, and all those things. Then they push it onto the stage, then they jump down into the pit.
But the steel band has developed into the kind of institution, and I would call it an institution, because it is, to a large extent. because of the devotion and the time that the adherents of the seal band take with their art and their instrument. You know, and seal bands are community movements. Calypso was, and still is, in all its incarnations now, an integral part of Carnival. You know, the Calypso, again, was born out of the slavery, the period of slavery, when you had what was referred to as chantwells, you know, people who would sing their protests rather than stand up in a soapbox. And, you know, because, you see, the slave master would always like to be entertained. And they always knew that coming from West Africa, these slaves were very, very artistic. They could sing, they could play things. Of course, they drew the line when it came to the drum because they thought this was talking to one another. We don't want that. We don't want you to have a religion, your drum, you know, that's your names, your family. But you could entertain us, you could sing for us, you know. And we would clap and applaud you and so on. So the chantwell was born. And they would be singing in patois, or they would be singing in a sort of a language that incorporated some of the African dialects with some of the French dialects, and totally confused the slave master. They didn't know what they were singing about. You know, and this developed into the Calypso, which always was a means of attacking the master class that developed into attacking the governments or attacking the business classes, you know, because there was always the impression that there was one law for one set of people and another law for another set of people and so on. And the Calypsonian would be there representing the underclass, the people who could not speak for themselves. And you had a lot of very masterful works of Calypso coming out of that. You know, you had the Spoilers and the Sagalbas and the Roaring Lions and, you know, the Executors, and they would sing, their topics would be topics that could be taken up in editorials. You know, they would sing things that people were reporting about in the rest of the world during the Second World War. You had Lord Executor singing about the arrival of the Graf Zeppelin, you know. One Sunday morning I hear this rumbling overhead, and it was a German Zeppelin, you know, that sort of thing. And it was always something to listen to, you know, to tell the Calypsonian in the same way that the Calypsonian told a story, the masquerader told a story, you know.
Only distance will separate us. Ah, what a day, what a time, what a story. To behold this world and its glory. Everybody cosmopolitan, we all will unite as one, and then we got peace in the world. Where we need peace in the world. No more greed, tell world leaders for me to unite universally. Because we want peace in the world. For you and me, peace in the world. Everybody has a conflict will never cease. Until
Bandit, never done, Mussolini, you know you're wrong. Mussolini, what you think at all? You want to make our king a broker doll, but you wouldn't live long enough to see Italian flag upon our country. For we would march forward at the bugle call, fight to the end until the last man falls. Advantage was never done, Mussolini, you know you're wrong. The advantage was never done, Mussolini, you know you're wrong. Mussolini, that isn't bravery. to have acted so advantageously. The way you started, I'm sure it made you shame. So if you win, you cannot say you make your name. And more than that, the Lassie is a diplomat. So if you win, just want to be sure I leave me at advantage. Never done, Mussolini. You know you're wrong, the advantage. Never done, Mussolini. You know you're wrong. The Abyssinian heroes all declare, Mussolini, you better be aware. Over Selassie, you thought you would prevail. You went to meet a fish, but bounced up a whale. And what would never teach until we see him dead. For we need to tear brass out of his head. Advantage, but never done. Mussolini, you know you're wrong. The advantage, but never done. Mussolini, you know you're wrong.
African music is fundamentally the act, is the call of the act of possession of different kinds of moods or orishas or states of being or deities, whatever you may want to call that thing. And so of course the carnival is that. It is, you know, hundreds of thousands of possessions, you know, all driven to the African music, soca or
whatever. Something about this music, yeah. What name stop? Say what name stop? I can't stop. Say I can't stop. What name stop? Say what name stop? Taking over me soul is the kind of feeling that I cannot control. Messing with me body, messing with me mind. Every time it hit me, man, I just start to whine. Just leave me alone. When you see me, please don't bother me. Just stay out the way. Leave me alone. Oh, my head in a mess. I feel I possess. Cause I can't stop. Say I can't stop. What them stop? Say what them stop. I can't stop. Say I can't stop. What them stop? Say what them stop. I can't stop. Say I can't stop. What them stop? Say what them stop. I can't stop. Say I can't stop. I jumping up and down on the road like a jumbie, falling down on myself like a junkie, whining all in the bed like a jumbie, this thing gone to my head like a junkie. I out on patrol, 3-0 in me hand, looking for a fetter to jump up in a band. I don't have no worries, I don't have no fear. I having the best time, hands up in the air. And I feel my skin go get well, cause I can be in the tail, but I don't care. I don't care. I ain't come here to fail. I want everybody just leave me alone. When you see me, please don't bother me. Just stay out the way. Leave me alone. I we baba numa, we baba numa. Ah yeah, we baba numa.
The freedom erupted on the streets in unprecedented numbers and colors and finery. You know, there was nothing like it. When you have the experience of playing mass, you really feel free. Trinidadians are very spiritual people. Trinidadians are very, we have a rich culture, having come from diverse backgrounds and so on. And it is reflected in the kind of music we have. It is reflected in the creativity, the ability to create the only percussion instrument of the 19th and 20th century. You know, the steel band, or the steel band. The fact that we, a little country, has been able to spawn carnivals in so many other parts of the world that mimic Trinidad Carnival, where Trinidad Carnival came out of mimicry, you know. It is amazing. But
Trinidad and Tobago's history of its carnival comes from a rich and colourful background of many diverse peoples and their culture, with a very impressive growth in its development. The carnival duly tells many stories, performs choreography on the stage, and has many satire taking place during the carnival. Infused with its rhythmic music of the steel pan, drums and more, it has developed from a celebration of freedom into the biggest street party in the Western Hemisphere to date.